Welcome to the Virtual Environment and Multimodal Interaction Laboratory, or VEMI Lab for short. My name is Grant Beals. I'm a staff member here at the lab, and I'd like to show you a few things that exemplify the work and culture of the lab, as well as a little bit about the students who work here. We specialize in a variety of technological solutions for real-world problems. We're a research laboratory focused on promoting interdisciplinary undergraduate collaboration through hands-on research and development. We've come a long way since VEMI's inception in 2008. The breadth of our research has continually expanded as we've grown and diversified our staff. VEMI student employees have been pulled from over 20 different disciplines over the years to bring a diverse range of specializations together to collaborate. Our undergraduates work in tandem with staff and graduate students through every step of the research process, from brainstorming ideas to development to running experiments and writing publications. In fact, over 70% of VEMI products feature student collaboration, and last year, 61% of our publications featured student co-authors. As a lab that primarily performs human subject research in a variety of fields, COVID-19 posed a very real challenge to overcome. However, we are a group of problem solvers. Our staff and students were quick to explore and adapt to remote communication, studies, and new projects to help the university and our community tackle this unprecedented time. Lab life looks a little different these days, but we still come together as a team to get things done. VEMI has always strived to be a home away from home for our students and staff. We've found that this approach has led to a more productive working environment and dedicated personnel that are excited to participate. But you don't have to take my word for it. Just listen to some of our current students speak about why they choose to work at VEMI.
So I think it's a coupling of rigor and excellence with support and family structure, which I think is really unique and productive.
It's 100% a family. Everybody takes care of everybody else, and it is fantastic because if anybody needs anything, like lab related or not, there's always someone that's happy to step up and say, hey, I can help you with this, as well as sort of getting a professional environment that isn't so professional that it feels off-putting. Because I am still in college and I would still like to not have to wear a business suit and tie into the office, but it's still professional enough for me to get a feel of what it's going to be like in the real world.
But that's one of the reasons I like going to VEMI. Like, I can see people who made the decisions I have to make, and I can see them like 3 or 4 years down the line and how that would affect me. It also lets me do things that like are other jobs. My project right now is just another job. Like, if I wanted to do this, I could do this, or if soldering or 3D printing or all of those skills that I picked up just because I was interested in them. I don't think I could have had those opportunities without them. There are a whole lot of events that are just meant to bring us closer together in a way that doesn't emphasize work efficiency as much as just developing relationships with those around us, which does often lead to work efficiency, but I don't think that's the point. Or if it is, Rick is being real devious about it. Was the reason I chose UMaine. Like,
That's awesome.
My connections here could not be replicated anywhere else.
Thank you for joining us for this brief look into VEMI. Once it's safe to do so, we'd love to see you in the lab for a tour.
Hi, how you doing? Welcome to the VEMI Lab live Q&A session, part of Maine Impact Week for the University of Maine. It's a great week in which we get to highlight a lot of the research that's being done here at the university. And, you know, as we're all running under COVID, this is kind of a new and different way to do this. Normally we would open up the lab for tours, but what we did is put together a nice little video for you, and I am joined by Dr. Dr Howell and Dr. Nicholas Giudici, we're here to answer questions as they come in. Just a pre-warning for everyone, we're in the middle of one heck of an interesting storm. So if we or Nick or Caitlin happen to drop out, we apologize, but can't do much about power flickering or 50-mile-an-hour winds. But we're going to get through it one way or another. So we've been collecting questions through social media and other forums, and questions from some of our students. And feel free to ask a question right here on YouTube, and we'll certainly try to get to it. We're going to go through as many as we can in the next hour and see, if we can help out and showcase some of our work. We're going to be looking forward to that. Anyway, Nick and Caitlin, you guys ready to go?
Why not?
Yeah, let's do this.
All right, let's start hammering the questions. Well, by the way, the first one I have to get out of the way because now I've had 2 people text me about it. The plaid mask I was wearing in the video, my wife Mara made it. Please get in contact with her if you really want one of your own, just because that's 2 texts in regards to that. So VEMI related questions. Let's start right off with a COVID related question. What did VEMI do in response to COVID? That's a pretty good question. Anybody should I open and then I'm thinking between Caitlin and Nick. I want Nick to talk a little bit about some of the BVI work that we're starting to do and help in that area. But the first thing we did was, like everyone, we had to change the way in which we're doing research, and we had to find ways to do this online, and we did it really quickly. We converted everything over within a week and got in touch with our program officers for our federal grants and made those changes that needed to happen. We very quickly did a quick test to test a study that we had ran in person versus a study that we ran online, and we found out that they were very comparable. So that's, that was great news for us moving forward to human subject studies online. For me personally, I ended up on a whole lot of committees, as Caitlin did as well. Caitlin, you want to cover some of these in general, some of these committees that we're all trying to hammer and get through here at UMaine?
So many committees, Rick. It's incredible, but it was really nice to see the university really stepping up and working to fill some of these roles that were clearly needed as this went down. So I don't know, we can share committees, but mine included the committee for figuring out how to decontaminate personal protective equipment in hospitals around the state and also elder care facilities. We had a lot of folks in the area writing to us and saying, okay, so what do we do? Because we don't know, and we're going to run out of these materials quickly. So a lot of the students and I, we started diving into the literature and we started figuring this out, talking with the providers and just helping to fill that gap. Well, also I did the wastewater testing committee that's still ongoing, where we're testing wastewater to be able to track and see if we can get some early indication of if we're getting an outbreak on campus. That was a type of test that we had never done here before, but we saw it coming up. We said, we got to have that. And so a lot of us hoped that happened.
High quality poop testing. That's what we're doing.
You know what? Everything comes down to poo. If anyone's seen Scrubs out there, it really is a thing. There's a reason why they had that.
Yeah.
Okay. What about yours? What are some of yours?
Oh, some of me, oh gosh, I was on the innovation committee. I ended up being on the committee to look at apps for contact tracing and health tracking. I was on committees for the state, looking at the ways in which we can connect databases for hospitals for needs, and it was a little bit of a crazy good time. The other thing that we did in COVID is we started to switch around and looking at a lot of our BVI research, and in particular, Nick wrote a beautiful piece on what it's like to be a BVI person in the time of COVID. And Nick, maybe you can talk about that a little bit and some of the research that we've started doing in that area.
Yeah, so the piece that I wrote is on Medium, and it was really just kind of a summation of some of the experiences that I'd been having and people that I knew on kind of when you can't see what it's like in kind of the COVID world, and the big part, especially in the beginning, where guidance about being careful not to have physical contact, and that's still the case, social distancing and the like. And so this was just basically saying, when you don't see your way of experiencing the world is through touch, And if you aren't able to touch the world essentially anymore, then it makes it's a very different way of feeling like a big part of your agency and identity is removed, and also challenges around social distancing. So how do you know if you're in 6 feet of someone if you don't know that they're there? That's kind of spawned some interesting development work that we've been interested in thinking about ways to develop technologies that would be able to help with that process by doing kind of monitoring that bubble.
The sonar didn't work out very well, though.
Yeah, it'll probably be an optical solution.
Yeah. But yeah, that was Nick. Yeah, we've been trying to solve the 6 foot problem. How if somebody is blind or visually impaired, how you can do the 6 foot, as Nick mentioned, and we played around with sonar, and that didn't work out as well. So yeah, Nick's right. We've got to move to a digital computer vision solution, I think. Did I miss anything from either of you two? I keep looking over at my screen here, but I think we got everything. What else is next? Let's see. Next question. When was VEMI started and why? Oh boy, that's one we've answered 100 times. This started out as Nick's lab, and it started as the GET lab, and then I don't know, Nick, was it about a year after that?
Our current head of the department that I was in was a British kind of uptight gentleman, and he pointed out to me, he said, "Isn't that a bit pompous?" And we realized, yeah, that kind of probably is. So so Rick and I had been working together. Rick, I kind of connected with Rick the first day that I came to UMaine in 2008, and we started, as the lab grew and Rick started kind of having ideas that influenced me on how to, the ways that we want to grow a lab. We started working more together, and then he really started kind of being a big part of guiding that process. And I'd say we really kicked in with that in 2009, when it became VEMI at some point. And now the argument is more about how you say it, and
it's VEMI. Yeah, I agree.
I'm the only holdout of VEMI.
But you hold on.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
So this ties really well into our next question: is how did Dr. Howell get involved? Oh man, the way I remember it is we had this very energetic and wonderful faculty member that came by for a tour, right, Nick? If I remember.
I believe so. Yeah, and then we were talking with her afterward.
Right, that's right. And she, we loved her excitement, her interest in working with the students. We loved her research, where she was going with that. Caitlin, does that sound about right? Are we somewhere in the ballpark?
You're mispronouncing crazy person.
Oh.
I came in trying, like, super nervous because, here were these amazing people with this awesome reputation on campus that they could do the coolest things. I'm like, oh my goodness, okay, we need them to do projects with our students, because biomedical engineering and this sort of technology cool thing that they do, this could be perfect, but I'm going to have such a hard time convincing them because nobody wants to work with students. So yeah, I came in with the impression that I would really need to convince them why it's so important to work with students, and little did I know.
Yeah, well, it turns out you picked the right place.
Our hallmark.
Yeah, yeah, that's what we hang our hat on.
Caitlin, in the beginning, we called you, or I called you at least, fast talking, Caitlin, because you were so excited.
Yep.
Excited and nervous. That's what I do when I really need to convince you.
And anyone that knows the lab knows that Rick and I, we do things largely through long sessions of arguing, but we're not really arguing. We're just kind of, that's how in a lot of ways we work through things. But after that first time with Caitlin, we both got together and we're like, we need to work with this person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Two things we immediately agreed
on. We knew it immediately. Yeah, we hardly ever agree completely on something from the get-go, but we knew we had to work with Caitlin moving forward. So that was great.
Now you can't get rid of me.
But by the way, Izzy Topper's helping us with the questions, and she's leading them in very well. And congratulations, because the next question here is, how did Dr. Howell's research change the way VEMI works? I think that's a good question, and sure. I mean, certainly, and we can all speak to this, but Caitlin's research, more bio-inspired moving forward, and we were looking more. We were doing a lot more work with blind, visually impaired, and spatial wayfinding, and we found out that it actually tied in very well because it's all dealing with humans one way or another. Um, I mean, yeah, we've been excited about slippery surfaces and, nasty things on screens.
Say the fouling, Caitlin.
It is pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, lots of the most interesting science these days happens at the intersection between disciplines, and the intersection that we have here, between all of our research is really unique. So there's a lot of opportunity here. I think it's just going to increase the amount of opportunity going forward too. So.
And it gave me an opportunity to start naming new projects with weirder things, which got to be a lot more fun. And then Caitlin and I had fun really naming new projects. Because those who don't know, the VEMI Lab, most of our projects has very boring and academic names. Internally, we have different names that are a little more obnoxious and fun. So so yes. So Caitlin's currently working on rainbow unicorn skin, which has nothing really to do. Well, it does have to do with rainbows, not so much unicorns though. But maybe. Let's see.
You never know.
You never know, maybe. Oh man, I don't know if I can answer this one. What are the core values of VEMI? Core values. That's a good question because I can't answer it right off the tip of my tongue.
I mean, I would say that one core value is that everyone has a valid opinion, and everyone has something that can be to contribute, and it doesn't matter if you're a high school student or a Nobel laureate. One of the things we also say, and Rick and I have this kind of hiring dance we've done for a long time, but we always ask anyone, are you willing to fail on the path of success? Are you willing to do something and be willing to not have it work out? And because that is, I would say, a core value of what we're doing. We're willing to try things and push the boundaries and think out of the box. And if you're not willing to fail, then you're not someone that does that. And I think that's something that really helps to set us apart, both of those things, from other types of things.
I think the failure thing is a big thing. You bring up a good point. I mean, one of our big ideas here is that, as Nick said, everyone is allowed to contribute here. Our undergrads don't just clean beakers; they actually do the work, and we really try to include everybody in everything. I think another value that we have kicking around is just allowing people to explore or expand their own ideas. So it doesn't matter, again, who you are. If you've got a good idea that it seems to apply, that will work.
I think, let me just jump in. I think the idea of us, if you look at the three of us, we come from all very different backgrounds. We bring different skill sets, complementary skill sets. And so I think that students, the ability for students to realize that they really can cross disciplinary boundaries and kind of do different types of things, whether it be science, engineering, the translation of this type of stuff. There's things that people talk about, but they rarely do. And I'd say that's really a core tenet of the lab, is that we have these different disciplines and that we try to merge them and really, try to celebrate that idea of merging them instead of being stuck in, oh no, this has to be done from a traditional, computer science standpoint or a traditional psychological standpoint or what have you. The power is in how you merge these things.
Yeah, it's this hybrid model that's works so darn well. Yeah, I agree with you. That's well done. I think we nailed that question. We have a question that just came in live here from, is this Crystal? How does the VEMI Lab interact with the community outside the university? Oh, well, that's a great question. Well, one of our big primaries was the amount of tours that we did. We used to do quite a few tours before COVID, a lot of tours. We always make an effort to connect on outside. We certainly, look, we always take place every year in the Maine Science Fair, which gets connected to a lot of young, really interested young people that want to get involved in science and are interested in what we're doing. We've been doing that for years. What am I missing, guys? How else we connect to the outside? I mean, well, the publication, I mean, the normal academic stuff we of course do.
Well, yeah, but we've also sent, through the years, usually at least once a year, we've had people have these cafes where they go to high schools and different types of groups and show them like what's it like to do science? What's it like to play with high immersive technology and try to get people excited early on.
Yep.
But as Rick said, like the ability, and I'd say this is a real one of the things that we do that I'm very proud of is that we get students that are able to talk to other students, other developers, other researchers, or community members. We've had everyone from Angus King to random middle schoolers that come through the lab, and being able to help to kind of expose them to what we're doing and get and actually get them try stuff out and talk about it and let them hear other students. That's a huge part of community connection that both lets the community know what the university and what we're doing, but also lets us know what community needs and where things are that we should be thinking about for trying to recruit new students and provide things that services and activities and opportunities that students that are interested in UMaine can do.
Yeah, I was just thinking one of my favorite times is after we do the Maine Science Festival, and we always get the kids send us stuff they built, virtual worlds they created, augmented reality ideas they have kicking around. All of that works out. So yeah, that's been a lot of fun.
It's really nice to see how the students take the initiative to do this too. It's not as though, we are saying you need to go do this. They're actually like, hey, we could do this, we could plan it in this way. So we're getting a lot of the ideas of how to connect from the students themselves, which makes it a lot more effective.
Yeah, I think and the students love going. We go to schools. We used to a lot. Again, after COVID, everything's different. But we used to go to schools and present a lot, and the students went. It was never us. Libraries, we've done all kinds of interesting community outreaches that try to connect. Good question. I like it very much. Let's see what's next up here. How does VEMI address diversity and inclusion? Caitlin?
Well, I can tell you from experience, we go out of our way to look for all kinds of different people from all different perspectives, because I think we all realize and respect the fact that problems are best solved when you have views from a lot of different angles. So we really do our best to get students from all across the spectrum. And we have, students, we have lots of women in tech, which is awesome. Yeah, women in tech. But also students from a whole huge range of majors. I don't know, what are some of your favorite? Anthropology, clearly biomedical engineering.
Yeah,
Clear.
we've got
clearly.
clearly.
Over
Philosophy
right now, but certainly almost a dozen and a half disciplines that I've worked in VEMI.
Yeah. I mean, I think the number's higher than that, but yeah, I think like we've got earth sciences right now, and psychology, and spatial, and computer science, and man, I know I'm forgetting people, but yeah, we're trying to include not only different thinking, but we try to open the door to anybody. As long as you come here and you're willing to learn and you're willing to be part of a larger family, sure, we're going to give you a shot. It will work out.
And it shows that it works. I think people talk about the culture, the family, the community, or whatever that we have. And, that works because we're not just a group of one discipline, and we're not just a group of one type of person. If you look at, as Caitlin said, like women in tech and women in computing fields, it's historically one of the lowest national averages. And, we're right around 50%, which is great. For first gen students, we have a high percentage of first generation college people, and to get them excited and to have the experience that's not just going to a classroom and going to a generic lab, that really builds to this and speaks to this culture, along with the disciplinary diversity.
Yeah, no, excellent point. Let's see, next question. What can you tell us about any current projects that you're running? Okay, well, I'm going to let the two PIs that are running most of the projects talk about it. Caitlin, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll talk about rainbow unicorn skin because
Yeah.
that was teased a little bit. So we're really super excited about that. That project is being primarily run by Oshin Biswas, who is a master's student, and he's being assisted by Alia Parsons, who is an undergraduate in chemical engineering. So we're very happy to have them as part of the team. But again, we get assistance from across the VEMI lab, and that's really wonderful. So this project, we are taking this type of material that is patterned at the nanoscale. And this material is actually super exciting because you may think it'd be really, really hard to make stuff that's patterned at the nanoscale, so you can only get a little tiny bit of it. But actually, we have the technology here in the state to make this on massive rolls that are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of feet long. Enormous stuff. And if you want to know more about that, I can tell you later, but we can make it here in this state and nowhere else. And so we're figuring out ways to be able to take that nano pattern material and use it as a way to detect when a shared touch surface is dirty. Important, right? You want to know if somebody who just opened that door or just touched that screen in an airport kiosk was maybe, had their fingers up their nose ahead of time. Kind of a little bit relevant these days. And so Sheen and Alia and the team, led by RJ, go RJ, are working on ways to be able to detect that using cell phone technology. So that's rainbow unicorn skin, and we are very excited about it.
Good luck following that one, Nick.
Yeah, Caitlin's never anyone you want to follow if you're giving a talk,
No.
unless she has cooler names for her stuff. Two things we're doing. We just got a project. We're actually, thank you to Caitlin Haas, our other research manager in the lab, done a huge amount of work on getting this going with 3 new undergrads on looking at, I call it haptic STEM, or cyber learning. It has a bunch of different names, but essentially we're looking at how you can make graphical material in STEM disciplines. In this case, it's looking at geometry and other mathematics, accessible if you can't see them. So there's a lot of students, blind and visually impaired students, that are in classrooms, and increasingly you're having all this stuff that is graphical. You're looking at a book and you have diagrams, or you have the geometric polygons, or you have maps and what have you. And we're looking at all these different aspects. But right now we're looking at it with geometries, and we're using a technology we've developed in the lab called vibro audio interfaces, where we're using touch screens, and the vibration on touch screens, as you move your hand around, you can feel when you touch the visual images, they vibrate, and it feels like you're touching lines, and you can move your fingers around to feel these lines and feel the shapes, and you can augment them with sound and speech and provide a multi-sensory or multimodal representation of these graphical representations right on a phone, where previously those things would either be not accessible, or they might, a braille geometry textbook can cost $20,000. And so these things often don't happen, and you get students that get very far behind, and you end up with these really kind of bleak outlook on vocational success and the like. So we're really excited about this project because it's providing a solution that can provide access in a really affordable, but also a really dynamic and robust way. And so this is looking at how we know what elements to present through what senses. So you might have the outline of an image that's using vibration and touch, but maybe aspects of the vertices or the angles that are given by language, other aspects that are given by sound. And so we're trying to do this mapping of what parts of the image, what properties, what attributes map onto what sensory modalities to be the most interpretable and most easily learned. And just quickly, the other project that we're working on is on autonomous vehicles, and how humans can learn, that human agents can learn to collaborate and connect with and communicate with the AI, the artificial intelligence agents that are going to be driving the vehicles. So it's, much like you might talk with your personal assistant, Alexa or Siri or what have you. But now it's not just like, can you play my favorite song? But now you're being driven at 60 miles an hour in a life or death situation. And there's very little out there on how humans can connect with these AI agents to get information across and to figure out how that collaborative process works. Also, there's very little in the way of trust of these things. So we're just starting some work where we're looking at the different ways that the system can communicate with the human just to get their attention. So right now, if you're in a Tesla or what have you, there may be a beep and a flash, but if people aren't really paying attention, that's not going to get them, if they're distracted, it's not going to get them to pay attention quick enough or in a way that's needed. So we're looking at different multisensory ways to do that and to figure out new strategies and new frameworks based on human learning, human collaboration to make human AI collaboration.
Yeah, we're we're really excited about that stuff, and we're hoping here very soon to have Caitlin's work in the bio area cross over to the work we're doing in autonomous vehicles, and then we're going to have sensors in vehicles that can tell people if they're nervous or whatever to let the car know. And we're looking at, multimodality and how to get that going. But yeah, that's an example of a couple of the big projects we got kicking around. Thank you both. Let me see. Next question. How would a place like VEMI have helped you while you were in college? Oh, this is for us specifically. Oh, wow. I'll start, and I'm kind of interested in both of your feedbacks. For me, this is the type of thing I always dreamed of. When I was in college, that ability to explore and learn. I got a bit of that when I was in college, working with Mike Scott at ASAP, and where we got to explore and look at different things. But it never really crossed over into research, like the really hardcore research that you always see published, or it's out there in the news and everything. And that ability to connect and understand what some of the professors and the researchers were thinking would have really made a huge difference to me moving forward. That's my thought. How would it have affected you guys in college?
Nick, why don't you go first?
So I was a philosophy psychology major, but on the kind of area of philosophy of mind, so how you can compare learning of the brain with the mind. And I wanted to learn about research, and I wanted to learn a lot about this, but there really was no, I learned from my professors, I learned from my teachers, or the books, but there was no area, there was no lab doing it, there was no area for me to go, place for me to go to talk with other students. And so it felt very kind of isolating, and to the point where when I graduated, I actually took a semester off. I dropped out of school at one point because I was so unsure of what I wanted to do before I went into grad school. And I think that having a place like VEMI where I could have felt like not just that I was in a community, but was able to really connect with other people that had similar interests, or even if they were doing different things, they were connected by this interest in working together and kind of learning and developing, and the kind of the tenets that we have at VEMI would have just been a good way for me to kind of just figure out to put it clearly, to get my shit together. Right? That's what I needed, and I didn't have that. And I think that's partly something that we provide as part of what we do. And I think it would have been hugely beneficial. That ultimately I did that by just kind of groveling through it and figuring out and kind of in my own time. But it was a stressful and wasted time, and it was stressful and what have you. So. Yeah, I wish I'd had something like that, like we have.
So I would have been a 7th year senior if this had existed when I was an undergrad. So I was a biology major, right? And I loved the lab. I just totally would geek out on being in there and growing little jars full of fungus. Seriously, it's the coolest thing ever. And nobody wants to do it because nobody believes that it's cool. But it was fun, and I loved it. And the few spare moments that my major professor had for me, I just relished learning everything, every drop of knowledge I could from her. But she was really limited on time, right? But if I had had the opportunity to have folks like Rick and RJ and Caitlin to talk to and to bounce ideas off of, and just to exponentially expand the amount of feedback from a senior perspective, in addition to having other students who are equally as geeky and equally as interesting, but have different perspectives to share this with and bounce ideas around, I would have just failed all of my classes because I would have been in the lab 24/7, and I would have been really, really happy. Because
Right.
honestly, I didn't figure out until afterward that, the best part of science is really being able, in my opinion, to talk to people and share ideas and have your mind expanded, right? It's the best thing ever. So yeah, I'm really glad this didn't exist, because it wouldn't have ended well for me.
That is probably, if there's one negative I can say about VEMI, is how often I hear from parents or people who are just like, can you send them home for Christmas? I'm like, I'm not keeping them here. They won't leave. Um, here's a question that any of the three of us can answer, but I think Nick would agree with me that Caitlin Howell should answer this question because she's going to do it very well. What is Rapid Research Week?
Oh man, Rapid Research Week is another thing that we really, really wish had existed when we were students. And so we are so happy to be able to provide it for all of you, current students, potential students, future students. Rapid Research Week is taking the process of research, and in particular research that is associated with human beings, and condensing it down into 1 week so that you can see from start to finish what happens in developing a research project and answering a research question. So we start on Monday with, providing you with your question, forming teams, and then just discussing, what happens in research. How do we get to, from this question to here's this final answer? And it involves a lot. So we talk about the process, we talk about forming your hypothesis, we talk about framing your study. On Tuesday, we go into setting up the experiment, and Wednesday, I think we're running human subjects. The students involved in Rapid Research Week are actually running each other as human subjects. And what's involved in that process? What are all the details you need to consider? Hint, there are a lot when it comes to people. Then on Thursday, we're actually taking that mass of data and figuring out how to analyze it, figuring out how to extract information from it. And then Friday, one of the most important bits, how are we communicating our results effectively? And in this way, students really get to appreciate what all these different moving parts are and how they fit together to really get us to creating that knowledge that is the point of science. So I love it. I get a huge kick out of it, and it's wonderful. So there we go.
One of the things we're very, very proud of. How about this one for Nick? What impact has VEMI made on the world, on its students' lives?
I'm a little confused. Was there a comma?
There was. It was two
on
different
the world,
questions.
or our students' lives?
What impact has VEMI made on the world? Question mark, end sentence, and then it said and on its students' lives.
So there's a twofer here, right? They want two.
Yeah, it's a twofer. Yeah.
Well, from the world, I'm biased as a scientist. I think that when you put things out there and do science and disseminate knowledge, you're impacting the world. But more pragmatically, at least for the work that I've been involved with and the research that we're doing, I'm very proud of how some of the translation of some of the theories that have come from cognitive science and neuroscience that have been developed into the technology that we've developed for accessibility, multisensory and multimodal accessibility, that now I'm seeing used in other research groups and by companies and by people out there that are starting to say, yeah, this is really a great way to do things in relation to extending on some of the stuff that I mentioned earlier, using touchscreens and smart devices and all the sensors and embedded, multisensory information that's in there to do information access. And I think that could potentially impact millions and millions of people that are currently having, have many challenges around information access. There's lots of other things, but I think one of the aspects that we try to push is to not get stuck in the academic silo and to try to get things out there. So companies, we've had a number of companies that have started from work that's come out of the lab, and I love that because it's showing that translation of don't just do something and write your paper and get your grant and then be done with it, but how do you actually get that out there? Those companies have then been supporting a lot of our students that are involved in them and that are their livelihood and their careers or vocational aspirations are now coming because of those, which is stemming from interactions from the lab. So yeah, I feel, a very high percentage of our students have really good jobs when they leave. And a lot of times those employers have told us, or the students have told us, that their employers have been really interested and excited about what they've gotten from the lab, and that's really helped them to succeed. So yeah, I mean, these are all kind of downstream things that are a big part of what we care about as people move on, and the things that we do as they move on, to not just, we're not just one little blip and then it's done. It's a continuous process.
Yeah, no, well put.
We just
Let's
lost
see.
Caitlin.
Oh. Yep, power went out. She might be right back. She said it blinked, so she might be right back. Let's move along then, Nick. You and I will keep chugging here. Why doesn't VEMI have more students? Oh, well, VEMI would like more students. We are completely self-funded right now. There is not, I mean, it's through donations. We're actually pretty happy. We have our first student this year that is completely funded by alumni funds and alumni giving.
Which is amazing.
What's that?
Which is
Yeah,
amazing.
it is amazing. It is incredible. And then we dig. I mean, it's grants that are out there. We add in as many students as we can. We go for corporations, anything to bring in the students. But we've said this forever. We'd be happy to roll up to 40, 50 students. Just can't afford them right now, because it's expensive to pay people, as it turns out in real life.
If you're a student that's coming to UMaine, or a parent of a student, I think it's important that you let people know that you want your students to have these opportunities, because they're things that we, as Rick said, we self-fund them. But as UMaine is working toward becoming a bigger research facility, a research institution, there needs to be more labs like we're doing, these student-centric experiential learning labs, and we'd love to expand if we had more resources.
Yeah, be happy to expand. Let me see here. How are alumni involved? That's question one. What resources do they provide the current students? Oh, well, as we just mentioned, number one is the alumni's actual donation is paying a student in place. Our VEMI alumni, and I'm going to comfortably say 60% of them are active daily, as I'm sure they are right now on YouTube. But they're active daily in our Discord channel, in which our alumni get to talk directly to our current students. Our current students who get stuck can ask the alumni, and it's been great. I mean, to have that level of interaction, to have that full level of interaction is huge. I just got a text message from Caitlin Howell. She will not be joining us again until the power comes back. Her power is completely out. So we miss you,
most
Caitlin.
units, I mean, if you're realistic, a lot of places are lucky if they even can keep track of who their alumni are or what they've done. So I think it's something that's to have that level of engagement with alumni, because it really shows the kind of the type of environment that VEMI is.
We often call this a family, and it's a little emotional, because it's like, we know that everyone cares and they want to be involved, and they care what's happening to the lab next, and the current students, I think, very quickly understand that this is a special place with a very, very big family, which actually, Nick, ties great into the next question. Where have our alumni ended up? Well, many places, but let's start off with two that are kind of fun. We've had two spin-off companies right now, Kinotech and Unar Labs, both located in Maine, which that's pretty fantastic, and they're doing great. They're building up their resources, and both within the last couple of years, right, Nick? Yeah, a couple of years. They're doing great, but our students end up at, let me see, where are they right now? They're at Google, they're at Amazon, they're at the New York Times. Who am I missing? They're down at, I know we had a bunch of students at Right Point. We have a bunch of students who are working at the new startups. What am I forgetting? I feel like this is one of these questions I should have had all the answers right at the tip of my tongue. Did I miss any other big ones?
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know exactly that pop into my head, except that I know that almost everyone that's graduated is got employment that they want. You know, not just menial jobs.
Yeah, well, or yeah, within the realm of something they're interested in.
And we're talking. I don't know how many students. Good, many dozens of students.
Oh, you mean alumni that have graduated?
Yeah.
I think we're into the 70, something like that. I can't remember. Another fact that I should have at the tip of my tongue, but I don't. What companies have VEMI collaborated with? A lot.
A lot of companies.
Yeah, a lot.
A lot of companies work with us in kind of two capacities. So companies may have us do a service contract essentially, where students in the lab will work on developing a specific project. That's one model. Another model is doing grant related, so the SBIRs, which is a small business grant that connects usually with a university, and so we would have a subcontract to do maybe particular. We've done stuff with research on new indoor navigation systems, and so they may have some tech. We do the human experiments for it, or we help them develop the tech. But yeah, so there's a bunch of different ways that we work with companies.
Not only companies, we do that with a lot of universities and colleges too.
Yeah.
So we're doing a big project right now with Dartmouth, which is exciting. Next, we're going to just keep hammering questions. Oh, here's a question, Nick. This one's all you. Why is VEMI working on autonomous vehicles? I'm assuming that's because it seems a little outside of what a normal human research lab would look into. But yeah, why are we working with autonomous vehicles, Nick?
I can give my answer, and Rick has one too, since Rick and I have the university's first grant on autonomous vehicles. It's if you boil down what we do human interaction with technology. I mean, you can call that however you want. But so one of the big kind of untapped frontiers of technology and human interaction are autonomous vehicles. This is an area that has, many, the capital expenditure is huge, hundreds of billions of dollars. And it's almost all on the engineering side, yet humans are going to be involved. So it's just it's actually a really good tapping of our background. So in the human vehicle collaboration that I mentioned earlier really ties into Rick's background in collaboration, mine in humans, and our common interest in tech. From the standpoint of personal interest, as a blind person, independent navigation is a huge deal in trying to figure out ways of getting around, especially in places like Maine that have limited transportation networks and the like, kind of sparsely populated areas. Autonomous vehicles have huge benefit for older drivers. Maine's has the oldest median population in the country. People that should not be driving maybe, but still are, because it is a huge part of their independence. So there's a lot of people that could hugely benefit from autonomous vehicles, but the current systems don't work at all for them. They're all touchscreen based and visual, and would be very difficult for a lot of older folks to use, or someone that can't see. So kind of the combination of figuring out ways to provide more navigation independence, that's a big area that we've worked in, with accessibility and multisensory interfaces, which is an area that we work in the collaboration and technology, human technology space. Kind of was just a great area to bring all this stuff together.
Yeah, I think it. Yeah, I agree with that. That last point's perfect. It was a great. It's a perfect area to start to look at the way humans interact with vehicles, and as I said, Nick brought it up very well of we need to be able to communicate with these vehicles, and we're just trying to look at how that happens. Let the engineers build the cars and keep them on the road. Please keep doing it. Don't stop. We're just trying to help how we're going to be interacting within them. I know we got about 8 minutes left. Let's see if we can get through a few questions here. What are the impacts of VR, of the VR projects? Well, we're kind of known as a virtual reality lab, but we're really not. Virtual reality is just another tool that we use to get to the end. It just so happens that our students get to learn a lot about virtual reality. So it's like a new kind of a new arrow in their quiver for their learning and their research. But our VR allows us to run simulations in a safe environment in which you normally wouldn't put people in. Like you can put people in a burning building and see how quickly they can find an exit. You don't want to do that in real life. Doing it in VR is much safer. Let me see here. Were any projects dropped during the switch to remote learning / work? I don't believe any were dropped.
Yeah, no, it changed the trajectory a little bit, but that was one thing that we worked really hard on to figure out how to do remote development, remote testing, remote student interactions. The only thing we didn't have, it's not really a project, but a big part of the lab are these kind of U-shaped couches that everyone kind of will sit on and not, do work, collaborate. There's just it's like a work and relaxation place, but it was a big part of what we did, and we kind of have lost that.
Yeah, I kind of missed that connection. What is your favorite VEMI event? Ooh, I'll go first. I love the Thanks VEMI dinner because it's a family and we all get together and we have a good time. The one I'm missing the most right now was our annual hopscotch tournament. So those were my two events. How about you, Nick? What's your favorite VEMI event?
I really enjoyed our 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, man, that was a lot of fun.
That was fun, and the other thing I really enjoy is graduation. We have a graduation, and we have students come with their parents, and we have barbecue that we cater, and Rick and I wander around in our gowns, and Caitlin, and Rick still has kind of a crappy gown, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, what are you going to do? Yeah.
But I mean, it's just kind of fun, and it's like such an exciting time because it's like the transition of students that are leaving us, but we know we'll still be connected. I just find that to be like the mixture of kind of some sad, but mostly exciting and positive about kind of this transition points. And there's barbecue.
There is something about that graduation barbecue, and I guess it's like hearing from their families who we haven't spoken to until that day. And hearing from them their impact and their how they're putting it and where they're going. The barbecue is something special. I love them all. Can we say that? I love all the events. Do any current students have plans for their path after VEMI? I know one is on her way to grad school.
I hope they all have plans for their path.
Well, I hope so, but I mean, the problem with that question is that this is still September. So normally, if you're graduating in May, you're going to start to really congeal those ideas sometime around January. And
that's a big part of what we do. We work with students to figure that out. Like that's part of the process.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, I know several people have asked this question is what is Stefan doing these days? Stefan, for those who don't know, is a mannequin that was left in the building when we took it over. Stefan's lonely. He's missed a lot of people, but mostly he's been cleaning up for COVID.
Is he getting his check?
Yeah, I think so. I think we've been setting up Stefan's payment. We got to make sure that he's getting paid. Otherwise, he's I mean, he lives here, even though he's
rent free.
Allowed to live. Yeah, that's bad. Let's see. What do we got, Grant? We got a couple more minutes. A few more questions. How much does VEMI receiving funding each year, where does this funding come from? Mostly NSF. Mostly NSF. We have some NIH, NEH. We have some corporate funds that we work with and some foundations.
Yeah.
You okay? I think that covers that. Oh boy, here's a loaded question that's with the last few minutes. Where is VEMI going in the future? Well, we've been talking about Pakistan. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to Pakistan. Well, we're hoping to really, I mean, we really want to expand out. We're hoping to find a few more really great key researchers to add into this team that want to be a part of VEMI as a whole. We're hoping to find more funding so we can bring in more students. We're working on sort of a quiet, shouldn't announce it out loud plan for a possibly VEMI related bachelor's program. So you can maybe get a sort of kind of degree in VEMI. I think, I mean, we're just going to keep following trends. I mean, when you say that, Nick, I mean, autonomous vehicles are a big thing for the future, and we think it's really important that we look into it, and VEMI wants to be front and center on the human side. And I think as things adapt that way, we're going to be looking at those things.
Yeah, I mean, it's the actual research trajectory, I don't know, but yeah, that's a huge area. The idea of how humans interact with AI in general is a big area. Just taking a lot of aspects of what we're doing and trying to bring them to other disciplines. I think that's the exciting part, and getting more students involved. And again, like, I encourage any students that are interested in coming to UMaine, or any parents, like, let the university know if you like, what you're hearing, you want to have more of this happen, you'd like to see it more supported, because we need support to do what we do. And that's, something we don't talk about a lot, but that's, at the end of the day, that's a big part of what we need. And we spend a lot of time trying to get grant funding, but just general support to provide these student experiences is really important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that anymore. We got time for one more, or are we done, Grant? We're just about done. All right, that was my sign to wrap it up. So I appreciate everyone spending the last hour with us. Hopefully we answered as many as we could. Hopefully it was entertaining on your side, but
Bernie's gonna make a Bernie, come on.
You gonna get Bernie in the shot? Hey,
Yeah.
Bernie!
No, he's not excited
Got a
about
cord on him.
Yeah, sorry, man, he got a cord on.
So from Bernie, Nick, Caitlin, and I, we appreciate everybody spending this last hour with us, and thank you very much, and have a good afternoon.
Thanks. Bye-bye, everyone.